on the line for the first half. I think we have Bryony Penn. Are you there, Bryony?
I'm here.
Great. Now, you have been an environmentalist for many years, and you write sometimes for Monday Magazine, and you used to have be involved with a television show that was really great called Environmental. It's just too bad that the old VI cut that out. And but people don't necessarily know that you're also an artist.
Well, I kind of, my philosophy in life is whatever medium can help, move ideas and information forward, let's use it. So I've always kind of gone back and forth between writing and art and, standing on my soapbox, whatever works at the time. And art, I find always is a wonderful medium because it kind of, people can, take it or leave it, but it's got the ability to, bring in the beauty of the world and also information and kind of engage a lot of different senses. And so a lot of the work that I do, I always try and include sort of a visual element to it because, 1,000 words can be captured in one picture.
Right, exactly. And so currently you're working on wilderness preservation in the Central Coast?
Yeah, I'm working on a bunch of different projects. One of the projects I'm working on is a kind of part of the piece of the puzzle for the Central Coast. This big land use decision's gone down about, called the Great Bear Agreement, I think is its shortened name. And it's it was a compromise that really didn't address all the things it really needed to address. And I guess one could look at it as a sort of starting point, but there's lots of things that were left out of the agreement. And one of the things that were left out of the agreement is a very unique population of sandhill cranes. And there's about 4,000 of them. And they have a very, very specific nesting requirement, which is these offshore islands where there's little estuaries and little boggy areas with little tiny lakes, and then sort of forested fringe through which they make the trails back and forth between their bog nesting sites and where they feed. And all these islands, essentially, many of them have been left out of the agreement, in that they're about to be logged, and certainly the logging plans are all being drawn up as we speak. Now, in that Great Bear Agreement, they said they were going to do something called ecosystem-based management, which really needs to look at all the things that are going on in these ecosystems. And one of the things that no one had done any work on was sandhill cranes. And yet they're culturally, they're a very important species to the Health Nation. They appear in their stories and their masks and their dances. But because they were nearly wiped out 100 years ago by hunters, the population's only just started to come back, and so they've sort of fallen off the scientists' radar.
So
and
wait, hang on a minute, Bryony. The people hunted these?
They hunted them probably in the winter staging grounds in the United States, and in fact, it was the sandhill cranes going into extinction that kind of precipitated the Migratory Bird Act, which prevented them being shot. And they're still a protected species in Canada.
How big? They're big, massive birds.
They're huge birds. They're bigger than, the great blue heron that a lot of us around, Victoria will be familiar with. They're larger than the great blue heron, and they fly differently. They fly with their necks extended, and they have a little red hat. Very few people really know about them because in the spring and summer, they might be flying overhead, sort of if you happen to be lucky enough around Comox and Courtenay, you might see them landing as they're heading north. But then they go up to these isolated islands and nest. And so it's only, the health-sick fishermen and a few researchers that really know about these birds. And so with Raincoast Conservation Society and a researcher from the Health-Sick Nation, Jesse Housty, we did a pilot study and found all sorts of things about these birds. And so one of the things we're trying to do is raise awareness about them, and this is where the the connection to art comes in. One of the sponsors for that was Robert Bateman, who's had a keen interest in them as an artist, and we want to try and raise more awareness about them in the communities where a lot of the political decisions are being made, and just to raise awareness to their plight. If these islands are logged, they're going to lose some of their critical habitat.
Steve, did you have a question?
Yeah, I guess what I'm thinking of is how come it's taking so long for the forest companies to realize that the integrity of the forest depends on all parts being justifiably preserved. So I'm wondering how much of the forest actions are still being clear cut, and haven't they moved to the more positive selective logging activities that seems to be purported, or rather portrayed, that is happening in BC?
I'd say that logging's got worse. As all the regulations have kind of fallen away with our present government, they basically deregulated the forest industry. They've set the fox to guard the chickens. There's really no checks and balances anymore. All you have to do is sit at the turnoff down to around where in between the turnoffs as you're going down to the Walburn and that kind of area where a lot of the logs are being hauled out now.
Yeah.
You'll see a logging truck going by every 15 seconds with huge old growth timber. Essentially, the logging companies are taking the last. It's a last gasp. They've been deregulated. They know they have a window. Increasingly, the public are not being, educated about what's happening because we have the media essentially controlled by corporate interests.